بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم ألهمنا مراشد أمورنا وأعذنا من شرور أنفسنا. Until now, after the chapter of Kitab al-Riqaq, which we discussed from the Kitab Mishkat, thereafter was Kitab al-Fitan and the signs of Qiyamah. And the purpose of mentioning it was that a person, it's called waking up to the threat of the devil. That a person should never be so oblivious in this world and to just think what's happening around is normal. I have never been warned about it. My Nabi never told me about it. The eye has to open. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's warnings were never meant to make man scared. It was meant to make man aware. A person who's scared, he'll never be able to walk that path because he's scared, I'm going to trip. A person who's aware, he has been told, you will have to walk it. But as you take every step, you must know what to do. You must know where to move. You must know how to jump. If you get bitten, you must know what to do. That is called being aware. So Kitabul Fitan. So now after we understood that Fitan is going to come, so now the demand is that a person starts taking his shield. And he starts now gathering those strengths which were given. Because this is a journey called the battle between spirituality and materialism. So material power is in the hand of the shayateen. And spiritual power was put in the hand of a believer. All he has to do is take his shield. Because material power is madda, you can see it. And man's nature is, he is also created of sand. So we become very amazed, shocked, thrilled, scared by material items. Because we are made of it also, madda, matter. And because spirituality is something that we can't see, until a person doesn't get a taste of it, it's very hard for him to relate with it. He never ever understands the power of it until he himself witnesses it. So we will go through now what is called, we all know it as the a'mal of Islam. And in this a'mal we will explain or try to explain, may Allah grant us understanding and amal grant you, that in what we call that those things which we are already doing, in those things is the answer to all the questions we have. When the person says, I'm very weak, I can't practice, I always fall, I always slip. In the tariq towards Almighty Allah, many different nuskhas, medicines, remedies were given. Different mashayikh prescribed for people different things. But all of them were united on one point. That the safest and the easiest and the fastest way to cross the path to Allah is on those acts which were established from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said there is nothing like the sunnah. People narrated it, related it, and everyone accepts it. I mean, no one will say that out of the sunnah I'll get more results. It was just that sometimes the person said, but I am practicing on the sunnah, yet I'm not finding the result. So like example, when Quran mentioned, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. And Quran also mentioned, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَا عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. That your salah will keep you far away from evil. But then the person said, but I've been reading salah for years, but my inclination and my falling into haram is just getting worse. Normally what will be said is that perhaps you're not reading the salah you're supposed to be reading. Now does he need to increase the time for salah? No, because the same salah. So we will start with the chapter of before salah is wudu, Kitabut Tahara. And we will try and mention these amals that Shariat, what we understood is, And normally in the books of ahadith, even in Mishkat, and in Bukhari, and in Muslim, if normally it's done because the tariq and the system of our madaris was that there is so much to discuss in the ahadith. One is to discuss the sanad, one is to discuss the fiqh of the hadith, the laws that are extracted from the hadith, how different fuqaha looked at the ahadith. So because so much of time had to be given to all of that, one very important part which was supposed to also be discussed, but because time never allowed, was regarding what we will call the substance. That for amal, what this narration was asking. You can call it the tasawwuf of the ahadith, or you can call it the essence, or you can call it ihsan. Today I gave an example when we were having the youth program. When Jibreel alayhi salam asked, what is Iman? So that we all know. He asked, what is Islam? That we all know. So in madrasa, we learned Islam. The small child in the maktab learnt it. And he also learnt Iman, because he said, I believe in Allah. And he said, every night read your kalima. So you got Iman. Had it stopped there, then that question would have arisen that there are many people who got Iman and Islam, but after days go by, they became tired of their Iman and Islam. They say it's the same routine. I don't get any flavor, I don't get any taste, I'm not getting anything out of it. Jibreel alayhi salam asked the third question, what is ihsan? The third question was to wake up me and you that ihsan we don't learn in the madrasa. And it's because we're missing this ihsan. So I gave an example. I said, you see, when you make biryani, the same amount of time is going to be taken. The same rice, the same chicken. And that's the most expensive part of the pot. The rice, the chicken, the mutton. As for the masala or the salt, we know in our madrasa students complain, they say the same cook. But one food of his is like 5-star and the other, I don't know. One person was explaining when you go for Hajj, then he said, we will take you to Medina Munawwara first, and there you will see, mashallah, you say 5-star hotel. He says, but don't get your hopes too high, because from there now this is Hajj. Hajj means you must struggle a little. He said, from 5-star I am going to now take you to Makkah Mukarramah 3-star. And then Azizia days will come, then we will go to 1 or no star. And then he said, the days will come where you will be under the stars. Under the stars. So similarly now, when you ask the cook, what's the difference between the two digs? That one, the students line up for it, and the other one, they walk the other way around. So he will say, it's the masala. Otherwise, the rice content is the same. Meat, chicken. And when you ask, like, okay, so just put that same masala there. So he will say it takes a while. It takes a little bit extra thought. When you ask, like, how much longer it will take, it will be like 1 minute. But it's that extra masala that you put in, that salt, that changed the whole thing. That made the person come back for a second and a third. Similarly, our wudu, we don't have to change it. And we don't need a longer wudu. The same wudu. But if it is made with this quality of ihsan, forget the salah that's supposed to do the job. In wudu itself, a person will find himself linked. So as we will do these ahadith, certain points we will mention. Some of the points are those that the shurra of the past mentioned. Some of the points are those that in recent times, Hazrat Shah Waliullah Rahimullah in his kitab, he wrote Hujjatullah al-Baligha. The purpose of this kitab was this, that those secrets in the amal of Shariat, which normally the mind was blind from, that we knew how to do it, we knew the laws, does wuzu break, it doesn't break, what breaks wuzu, we knew exactly from A to Z how to make the wuzu. The only thing is there was no flavor in the wuzu. So certain points he mentioned. So whatever comes to mind, we will mention these points. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala make it beneficial for all of us. A very nice point he made at the beginning, He said that Allah Tabarak Ta'ala made the believers of this ummah of 3 grades. He said one was those, you will understand, like from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam or every Nabi. And then we will speak about the great awliya. He said one was those that Almighty Allah allowed them, sometimes a longer time, sometimes a shorter time, to link up with what is called the world of Mala'i A'la. Mala'i A'la means that very high Jamaat of selected angels. Almighty Allah allowed them. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's first meeting with Jibreel alayhi salam was that hug. With that day he was introduced to a different world. And then different awliya, because of different riyadat, different spiritual exercises, different efforts. Some people, because of great difficulty they're going through in life, in a dream they get a meeting. Some people while alive they get the meeting. Some people have the honor that they see Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Some people, he hugs them in a dream. They just feel so like unique. So he says that meeting with Mala'i A'la, with that selected group of the angels, it could be for a second, it could be for a few seconds. And then the system of the world is, then the barrier, hijab has to be put. He said because of that meeting, a person finds himself in such a pure state, that purity now, once that hijab falls again, and he is unable to now go. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, after the first wahi, you will read in the ahadith how he now became like edgy. That when is Jibreel alayhi salam coming again? There must be no barrier. And for him there was then no barrier. But whenever Jibreel alayhi salam would be away for a while, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would feel very uneasy. He would say also, what kept you away? As for the awliya, they don't get the chance to be so linked all the time. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala allows them. There are certain times that they have certain very unique moments. They get that feeling, this is very high. We're just able to read these things. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala grant us all a chance to experience it. After that barrier is put, however, it has to be put because you have to go back to your family. We eat the food of this world. In a khanka you might be lifted. They would say certain times when Jamaats would be in Raiwin, and a certain person, because of his mujahada and riyada and his extreme efforts, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala would give him a taste of what is called that Mala'i A'la. So now he can't sleep at night. When he's looking at someone, he's seeing different things. Then they would ask the elders that while we were out in the village, he was gone. Like in another level. When we were in one country, they said to us that certain Jamaats of Pakistan come here. Said they go through this jungle. Said we the people of the country won't go through the jungle. One is the animals in the jungle, the mosquitoes, that flies, everything is deadly. He says, but while they are in this path, nearly every one of this Jamaat gets blessed with ziyarat of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. What a high level they start going. So when they come back to the elders now say they now need to bring him back now. When he's going to give Karguzari, he can't be in the heavens. So they say, okay, just go buy him a cup of tea from the market. So the market is not America's market. It's the market meaning the tea man outside the markets. They just give him that tea and it brings him from the heavens back to earth. Finished. All his halat are ended now. Because the system of this world is, number one, Allah has made it, you can't live in the heavens. And the second thing is we live in a world that our food is not the purest of pure. Very hard to say this. But if you ever want to go a little high, then for 40 days, eat madrasa food. For 40 days. Don't go out of the madrasa. Don't go visit, whether it's Fatima or Aisha's or anyone's. Stay in the madrasa. Eat madrasa food, not tuck shop food. So no Coke, no ice creams, no chocolates, no homemade, no what you call ready-made biscuits. Because you can't say I stayed 40 days in the madrasa and nothing happened. Because they'll ask you what you ate. You'll say all the things that they bought from Checkers. So that's not what we're asking. We need you to be only madrasa food. In that 40 days now you will start seeing that food has an effect. Food definitely has an effect. Now imagine now we are living in that time that forget now spending a few minutes in the heavens. We're not going to even take off because of the food that we eat, the ice cream that we eat. We're eating so much that it's actually pushed us under the ground, that we need someone to pull us up like. So that part is very high for us, but at least we can read it. There are those that have those minutes. When that hijab is then put, that veil now, they become so uneasy. In Tasawwuf, they would call the first state bast, that the man opened up to the miracles of the other world. And the second state, they would call it qabz now. Now he's just closed, he can't get it. They said after that day, this man searches for anything and everything that lets him at least come closer to that state. Anything and everything. From the first things that he finds is an extremely high level of purity. Because the angels are the most pure. He cannot smell any bad smell in his mouth. He will not tolerate it. Immediately he will say, I need a miswak. He will just wake up and the first thing is he will say, my mouth is not clean. If there is any food that gives an odor, Abu Ayyub Ansari radiallahu anh says, when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to stay by us, he says when we would send him food, then when he would send it back, we would see that where he ate and then, but one day when we sent him food and the food came back, then we found that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's hand never touched anywhere. So he said, I got very worried and I asked, what happened? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, this what you put last night, onions. He says, I am a person who speaks with Allah. He said, you eat it, no problem. It was his nature, he could not eat that raw garlic, that raw onion, because it would just make the body uneasy. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life was the miswak. So you will see those ahadiths when he puts emphasis. That emphasis is that you won't understand what the miswak is. I wish I could make it wajib on you. Because for him, how can you live without the miswak? He said, Jibreel alayhi salam would tell me so many times, I actually thought the miswak. Purity. Certain ahadith you will see, the sahabi thought that every time Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would come out from istinja, he must make wudu. So on one occasion he told him, no, is wudu like farz? You don't have to, but why the sahabi thought that? Because Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam could not stay without wudu. His nature was now such that as soon as wuzu breaks, and remember their house was not like ours. Water was not like ours. Hot water was not like ours. But the nature was such. Times of extreme difficulty, relations had taken place. It's very cold. There is no water at the moment. Using cold water might lead to death. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam thought, at least clean yourself. He said, you have left your wife now, at least make a wudu. At least put water in the mouth and the nose. That at least. There's a very high level that, how can we stay dirty? So he says, that level, they don't have to be told the fawaid of wuzu and taharat. For them it's like, I can't do without this. It is the only way I'm getting closer and closer to that enjoyment, ecstasy. And whenever I'm dirty, I'm very far from it. So as soon as they would come out of the bathroom, it would be, alhamdulillah, Allah, the dirt you took it out. First thing they would now look, how can I go get clean again? My wuzu must take place. They would make wuzu before sleeping. It was like nature. That how can I be without wuzu? What a high level. May Allah give us that we can experience that malay a'la. And thereafter it becomes nature taharat. This is not the taharat of the other levels. This is just the first basic taharat. He said the second level of people were those that did not experience that meeting, but they read the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and their hearts testified that my Nabi speaks nothing but the truth. He said when they saw the virtues of wudu, and that's what we are going to see, because we are, may Allah make it, if we can't be of the first, let us at least be of the second level. He said after reading the ahadith, they were convinced that there is nothing like wudu. They saw it not only as a farz amal for salah. They found it as a shield. They found it as a cleanliness from all sins. They found it as a ladder to the love of Allah. Inna Allah yuhibbu at-tawwabin wa yuhibbu al-mutatahhirin. Fihi rijalu yuhibbuna an yatatahharu wallahu yuhibbu al-mutatahhirin. The people of Quba, they just had a nature to be very pure. So they could have sufficed on that mud cloth. But they were not happy with that. They said, we will use water. For them to use water was not easy. Almighty Allah said, how nice. They love to be pure. He said, and Allah loves those who love to be very pure. He said, they understood in the ahadith that if you want the love of Allah, forget other things. Just that desire of yours to be extra pure makes you the beloved. So now itar becomes like part of his. You got some itar. Hey, I like that itar. Give me some itar. So itar he puts on. Because he just likes that smell. Today we read about Imam Malik rahimullah. Whenever he narrated a hadith, then he said, burn some, that oud. So someone asked him that so much of oud you burning from the beginning of the majlis till the ending. He said, it is my desire that I never ever narrate a hadith except I am on the highest levels of purity. Mutamakkin ala tahara. So my body must be pure. My clothing must be pure. The itar, the environment must be pure. Everything must be pure. He said, now I'm ready. Such a level that it must be very pure. So itar becomes part. The miswak becomes part. The clothing must be white. You will see sometimes the one who reads a lot of Quran, many qurra you will see. They develop such a tabiyat after a while that a little dust falls on their clothing also, it puts them uneasy like. So you'll say Quran gave them a very clean nature. But the same, Quran took them to a Malaya A'la also. Their nature becomes, I have to be pure. So he says that second level were those who read the ahadith and became convinced that there is nothing like wudu. For them no longer wudu remained a burden. No longer it remained just an action to allow my salah to take place. For them this became itself a maqsood. They would search for wudu even if they had wudu. It would be called wudu alal wudu. They would see their sins falling away from their hands, their eyes, their face with the wudu. During the wudu, they would see Allah Ta'ala looking at them and enjoying their wudu. After the wudu, they would say, Allahumma ja'alni minat tawwabin wa ja'alni minal mutatahhirin. That I know you love those who love to be very pure. This is my way of getting very pure. Ulama have written that there are 4 levels of tahara. One is the body, purity of the body from dirt. So you'll say clean your clothes. You'll say hadath se akbar, take a ghusl. Hadath se asghar, take wudu. This is a level of purity which is the lowest of low, but which is within the grasp of everyone. Thereafter you get the second level of purity, which is called now the body being pure from sin. That is hard, because we all fall in sin. Third level, harder. Mullah Ali Qari rahimullah says, Imam Ghazali said, the third level is for the heart now to become pure of evil traits. There must be no jealousy, there must be no hatred. That's very hard. Normally we'll tell a person, even if you got hasad in your heart, just don't practice on its demands. But hasad now for the heart to get pure, very hard. And the fourth level, the highest and hardest of all, he said, Tathiru sir amma siwallah. For your inside to be pure of everything besides Allah. That's very hard. All three are hard. But that bottom one is very easy. The normal law in Shariat is, Allah, what was within my capability, I did it well. And as for the remaining three, I leave that to you. Will you do that for me? Every time I make my wudu, through the wudu I am asking that my body starts becoming clean from sin. What sin was on it, it must fall off. That already promised in the ahadith. And what sins the body likes, that must now go away. There must be no inclination towards those sins. But I can't get that. So I will rub my hands hard. When I'm putting on the water, and I'll rub nicely, this rubbing nicely is to say, Allah, one is the sin of the hand, that must fall. And one is the inclination of the hand to sin, that must go away. This hand must become a pure hand. So to rub is not hard. I want to rub it. After I have rubbed the limbs, now I have taken out the sins from there. I haven't yet cleaned the heart, but so with my du'as during the wuzu, especially where my beginning dua is, where it was promised that all the limbs will become clean. And my ending dua, وَجْعَلْنِي مِنَ الْمُتَطَهِّرِينَ. Then I'd say, Allah, in the heart, the water couldn't even reach there. But what my duas I'm asking, what was in my ability, didn't I do nicely? So if you can have ihsan, do the wuzu nicely, the three other darajas we can easily say, Allah, I did what was in my ability. Will you do for me now the rest? 4 levels. So Mullah Ali Qari said this, Shah Waliullah Rahimullah said the second group were those who studied the ahadith and understood there is nothing like wuzu. How clean it will make me, how it will draw the angels to me, how it will push the shayateen away from me, how it will take me closer to Allah, how it will make me beloved to Allah. They said they never have that experience, but their trust on the words of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made them convinced that this is what I'm looking for. He said then they began making wudu nicely. May Allah make it that me and you all now start. He said when they began making wudu nicely, they started finding that closeness coming. With that فَيَنْصَبِغُ بِصَبْغِ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. They now began diving into the color of the angels. They began enjoying that company of the angels. Because the more pure nature they would get, the closer the angels would come to them. He said theirs was the second level, that they had to start on the journey and then they started enjoying purity. Every level of purity made the next level more enjoyable to them. They had to start. Me and you have to start. He said the third level are those in this ummah who never heard of the benefits of wudu, of taharat. But they continued making it because it was farz. He said even they will not be left deprived on the day of Qiyamah. He said you can call them those, he gave a nice word for them. He said perhaps they are that jurru bis salasil ilal jannah. They are those who were grabbed with chains and pulled into paradise. That you don't even want to do it nicely. But because you made wudu, your wudu will show you the results in the year after. So he says on that day they will see how it will make them amongst the selected. But they will not taste it in this world. He said then there is that second group who will taste it, and that first group who tasted it already, and now who need to get close. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala make our eyes for the highest. Can we be of the first? Can we be, if not the first, then the second? But we must not be the third, especially those who Allah gave them the chance. That not only one hadith of Riyadus Salihin, of Zadut Talibin, they were going to go through the whole Mishkat, through the Shuruhat of Mishkat, through the Siha Sitta. They were going to see the chapter of wuzu so many times that sometimes they would say, hey, I already heard this already. I already heard what every Imam said about this. Can't we go to the next chapter? So very good, you saw it so many times. But it mustn't be we see it so many times and we missed it completely. The essence of wuzu we must take. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala, through the barakah of the words of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, allow us to be of the second. Through the barakah of the words of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Allah in His kindness, allow us to taste from the first. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin.